All right. Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining our webinar today. This is one of the most frequent questions I've been getting from our clients and prospects over the last probably year or so about what cloud options are there. So I just wanted to go over, this is a very high-level overview, and I'm happy to take questions and also happy to schedule quick conversations with anyone to talk on an individual basis. So over the past 3 years, cloud options have been growing popular with small organizations, 20 to 100 employees, because of 3 important factors: reliability, efficiency, and cost. And there's many flavors. The term cloud options is very broad. I'm going to focus on the most popular ones. So hosted email is probably the most popular one, and I would say about 95% of our clients have moved to a hosted email. Now, I think this is probably the quickest return on investment. If you're talking about migrating your on-premise systems to a cloud, email is probably the first step. The second one is software as a service, and people know it as hosted applications like Salesforce, QuickBooks Online. It's nearly impossible to find a software vendor that doesn't have a hosted option currently, or isn't having one planned in the next year or so. The third one is cloud servers, and these could be hosted servers in a private or public cloud provider. I'll go into details as well. And the fourth one is relatively new. It's desktop as a service. This means that the entire desktop operating system is hosted along with the applications, files, and services. And this really changes the dynamic of your network and how your workers do their jobs. And we'll go over that in detail as well. So email, there's quite a few big players, but the 2 most prevalent ones are Office 365 and the Google G Suite. And for what I've noticed based on our clients, so probably 100% of the private clients are on the Microsoft Office 365 platform. And most of our education, nonprofit, and some government clients are on the Google G Suite. And they're both great platforms. LinkHigh is on the Office 365 platform. What I found in private corporations is that there's a comfort level with the Office suite. So people have a tendency to pick Office 365. And there's a few reasons. One is lower risk of data loss, because everything is hosted. You're really moving the burden of maintaining your infrastructure to the cloud. Easy configuration. The platform's always up to date, so there's no more patching of your Exchange server or mail server because it's done by your provider, either Microsoft or Google. And there's little maintenance. So as an example, currently the Office Suite platform is 2016. Well, in the next 3 or 4 weeks, Office 2019 is rolling out. So anyone on the Office 365 platform will get a little notification in the upper right-hand corner of their application saying, do you want to upgrade to Office 2016? And actually, a bigger change behind the scenes is they're no longer going to give years to it. So if you're on the Office 365 platform, it's just going to say Office 365. So the years will be different, gone, because when 2020 comes, you're going to get it, So the years will pretty much go away. If you're still on, the purchase software platform, then that'll stay Office 2016, Office 2019. And number 5 is the major reason why I think everyone should really move to a hosted email platform. It's the collaboration and productivity between colleagues and coworkers. And for example, so the dynamic changes. Right now, people have a tendency to create a document on their PC, a Word document, Excel, PowerPoint, and email as an attachment to a colleague to work on. Well, as soon as that person on the other, the recipient works on it, your version is obsolete or out of date, and then you're emailing attachments back and forth. Not a great way for collaboration. So the new dynamic is you create your documents in Office 365, and you could still, and here's a big misconception that, oh, I'm in the cloud, I have to use the cloud-based version of Word, Excel, and PowerPoint, it's terrible. No, you can use your desktop Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and what the difference is you're saving it to a cloud-based location like OneDrive or SharePoint. So when you send a document over to a colleague or the recipient, you're sending them a link. And they're opening a link and they can edit in real time. You'll see the changes. You can keep different versions. And that's really the change in productivity. So here at Link High, it was a slow transition like anyone else, but no one should be sending attachments anymore from a work product created in the office. It should be created through Office 365 and sent as a link. And I'm just going over, there's different flavors of both platforms. Office 365 Business Premium is $12 per user per month. The G Suite is the same. There's different flavors, like Link High uses something called E3 Enterprise 3, which gives you additional features like two-factor authentication, which is very important. It gives you email encryption, a lot more logging and security. And then I put this so I wouldn't forget, but backup is very important. It's often overlooked and misunderstood. So there's an assumption or perception by people that, oh, my email's in Office 365, they're taking care of the backups. Well, there are no backups per se. What they do is they keep your emails for 90 days retention. So you can always recover those emails through your Outlook if you want to, recover deleted items. But if you intentionally delete it from there, or it's past 91 days and you accidentally intentionally deletes it, there's no way for recovery. So part of any planning, migration planning, you should really consider having email backup. And I say email backup, it backs up the entire Office 365 suite. So it backs up your emails, backs up your OneDrive, your SharePoint, your contacts, your calendars, everything. It's all inclusive. And then some advantages. Well, before I go to the next topic, are there any questions? Feel free to chat, or you could also speak up as well. So if not, the next topic or section is software as a service. And everyone knows what software as a service. They might not know the term, but if you look, QuickBooks Online. QuickBooks has really gone to that they want everyone to be on their online platform. Dropbox is one of the old standbys for file storage. Salesforce is the 800-pound gorilla in CRM. They started as a cloud application. There is no desktop on-premise version, and that gives a lot of flexibility. So the benefits is cost. So instead of buying, let's say, we'll use QuickBooks as an example. Instead of buying QuickBooks one time, for $350 a user and buying new versions every year, you pay a monthly cost. The monthly cost includes, free updates. You're always on the current platform. Very scalable. So if you want to add a user, you just add a user. They charge your credit card. Automatic updates, maintenance. And then I guess the biggest flexibility is in this kind of environment, work environment, everyone likes to work remotely. Well, once you have a hosted platform, you can access QuickBooks Online from home, from your iPad, as long as you have robust internet without a VPN. I think that's the big difference. Before these online products, it'd be hosted on your server in the office. You would have to have a VPN, a virtual private network, set up so you could VPN back into your Office server to access. Not as convenient as having a hosted platform. All right, and are there any questions about software as a service? Oh, so I see one question from a participant. Does Office 365 or G Suite offer a backup solution? If not, what will we use for email backup? So that's a great question. So right now, Microsoft and Google do not offer backup solutions. They rely on third-party providers, and there's dozens for both platforms, both Microsoft and Google. We have settled on the Datto Backify product, which backs up both Office 365 and the Google G Suite platform. And costs are very modest. I mean, just for an example, I'm not going to pricing specifically, but for up to 50 users, it's $75 per month. So it's very reasonable, and that should be part of any budgeting if you're moving your email to a hosted platform. The next topic is cloud servers, and that's a very general term, so I'll try to go into a little more detail. So the most common type is a shared environment. The servers are in a shared environment, but the data is separate from other tenants. So I think that's very important. When I use the word share, certain people think, oh, well, my data is going to be commingled with other people. Absolutely not. You're just in a big, massive infrastructure, and your provider is going to partition it for your environment. And the advantages is that the costs are much lower due to their massive scale. Performance may fluctuate depending on the demands of the entire environment, but LinkHigh, and I used LinkHigh as a case study. We're in a shared environment, and we've seen no performance issues, and we're able to secure our environment very well. We have a dedicated information security department, so we do our own risk assessments. We hire third parties to do penetration testing of our environments, and it's rock solid. Some disadvantages. So certain industries that are subject to strict compliance, such as banks, probably wouldn't use a shared environment because there's no way to monitor the traffic of one tenant through devices called IDS, intrusion detection systems, and SIMs. But that's for a very small population of the market. The second one is private. So the company has its own environment that's separate from other tenants. The performance is usually higher, and traffic is easily monitored. It's a more expensive option. So LinkHigh is paying about $2,000 a month for our hosted platform. A private solution is about $6,000 a month. So there's a dramatic difference. Unless you need it for compliance, I don't think that's needed. Benefits. So decrease in capital expenditures. So traditionally, when you buy servers for your office on-premise, you're buying servers every time it's end of life, which is traditionally 5 to 7 years per server. And then scalability and resources. So a great example is a lot of our clients, when we configure or provide a server for your on-premise, we have to configure it for maximum usage. So a great example would be a CPA firm. From most of the year, if a CPA firm has 20 employees, but then during tax season between January and April 15th, they may have 40 employees. But if it's an on-premise model, we have to spec that server up for 40 employees, even though you're using those resources for only a fraction of the year. In the cloud environment, what we could do is provision the server for 20 employees, and during tax season, just provision more resources, more memory, more CPU, more storage. And then after tax season, we could scale you down. So it's very economical if you have fluctuations in workforce or your business is kind of seasonal. The cloud environment gives you so many different advantages. Number 3, redundancy. So redundancy just means these data centers have redundant internet connections. So a properly designed data center has internet connections from 4 sides of the building. So if anyone was cut, by a backhoe, you're up. They usually have, landline electric. They usually have battery backup. They usually have diesel generators. So during Sandy, Link-High was in a data center in New Jersey, and we experienced no downtime. So as they lost public power or utility power, they went to battery backup for half a day, and then they went to diesel, and the diesel generator ran for nearly 16 days without a blip. There's also physical and environmental security. So these data centers are built like banks. So to get in to our data center, it was biometrics. So it's a retina scan, thumbprint, and an access card. So there's multiple levels of security to get in, and environmental security. So they're built for those 100-year floods. So just we have a lot of clients who are just moving to the data center just for the ability to withstand in case next Sandy or some sort of power outage, because they're so dependent on IT. If their infrastructure went down, their business would just be losing thousands of dollars per hour. Disadvantages, so it's internet dependent. The data center is not going to go down, but if you're in an area that has poor internet or slow internet, you're not going to get the best experience. But I'll go into some scenarios that maybe might alleviate that. And then not all applications or hardware may work in a cloud server. I think that's less and less likely as the years go by, because this is a trend. But I think there's certain applications that may be more sensitive to speed fluctuations, and that's the biggest issue. Or if you do very graphic intensive applications like an AutoCAD or like a Adobe Creative Suite, manipulating large files via an internet connection may cause some issues. So cloud providers, I put the big 2 on there, and in my mind, there's 2 tiers. There's a tier 1, which is Amazon Web Service. They have the most market share. They're probably the most mature. They host massive platforms like Netflix until recently was on AWS. Amazon.com is on AWS, so it just shows you the redundancy and scale that they have. Azure is Microsoft Azure, which is close second in terms of market share. Great platform. Google, synonymous with search, but their cloud platform is a distant third, but they're doubling in size every year. So they're rapidly becoming a contender. And I consider those tier 1. For reasons I went before, all reputable cloud providers have redundancies. They're compliant to SOC 2, which just means they meet very strict compliance standards, and they're very secure. Why cloud providers? It should really be why tier 1 cloud providers are very appealing. The massive scaling, and billing. So the billing for AWS, Azure, and Google is a little different. So they bill by the minute, or they bill by the hour. So a great example is if you have test servers, or your business truly only operates on certain hours, you can have your servers automatically shut down every day at 5 p.m. So it saves you money. Or if you're a large organization, let's say you have 2 locations, the majority of your clients work 9 to 5. You can have, and then you have a small crew or a small contingent of workers after 5 o'clock. What you could do is start shutting down half of your servers and just keep the other half running, all night long. So if you have that kind of workforce or that kind of environment, a tier 1 provider, you have a lot of flexibility in scaling up and down your resources as needed. Also, additional services. I'm not going to get into too much detail, but AWS, Azure, you can just buy pure storage from them. You can rent just a SQL database from them. If you do complex websites like e-commerce, database-driven websites, they're probably the best solution. And Internet of Things, which is a very popular term. These are just little internet-connected devices. If you're in manufacturing distribution, we should talk about how Internet of Things may help your business. Tier 2. So a Tier 2 provider, and I don't want to say, give the impression that Tier 2 is a lesser tier. It's just different. So a Tier 2 provider, and Link High, our servers are in Green Cloud Technologies. We're actually hosted in Houston. The reason why I went to a Tier 2 cloud provider is it's fixed monthly pricing. So I want my resources up and running 24/7 by 365. I don't want to scale down our resources. Unlimited bandwidth. So the Tier 1 providers charge you for outbound bandwidth. So it's very hard to figure out your real price per month, because it'll be, let's say, $1 an hour plus whatever bandwidth consumed during the month. So it's like a cell phone plan. I like to buy unlimited plans. I know what my monthly cost is. With Green Cloud or any Tier 2 provider, I know exactly we pay $2,000 a month, roughly, and that's my price. It's never going to go higher unless I add more resources. And flexibility. There's smaller organizations. Azure and AWS are, $20, $30 billion of revenue. They're not. You can't call them up and ask for a custom solution. Our provider, Green Cloud, we've called them up, and they've tailored custom solutions just for Link High, because we have some extra security concerns that most companies don't, and they were able to work with us and accommodate us. And support. We have dedicated support. I can pick up the phone and ask for specific people. That's not going to happen in a larger environment. You're just really a ticket, right? You create a ticket, Amazon, Microsoft, and Amazon, they'll just call you back, but it'll never be the same person. So, any other questions before I go on? Let's see. If you're using Office 365, how does the company handle email archiving if they want full retention for just 7 years and access those emails? So that's a great question. So Office 365 has archiving features, and they're usually part of like an Enterprise 3 plans. So you set the retention based on the needs of your clients or your compliance. So if you want it set for 7 years, it's going to keep 7 years of emails, and no one can delete them. It's automatically going to delete after the 7th year, but including the administrator cannot delete emails, so it's a true archive of those 7 years. And the great thing is the archiving, you could search through Outlook, so it'll show up as an archive folder in Outlook, which is your desktop version. It'll show up in the Outlook Web Access, which is a web version, and you could search files that way. And if you have the proper permissions, you could search multiple mailboxes. So as a domain admin or global administrator, I could search, all 17 employees for like a, search term like Google. I could search all mailboxes at once, and it's a great feature. Archiving is not the same as backup, but archiving is great because people have a tendency to use their Outlook as a file server. 100 gigs, I've seen 150 gigs of emails. It really slows down performance. Outlook was really not meant to have search through 150 gigs. So archiving is a great feature. what we do here is anything older than 2 years is automatically archived. So if it's older than 2 years, it's in the archive folders. So your search is a lot quicker. And you can, when you search, if you're not sure if it's within 2 years, you can include the archive folders in your search. It just might take a little longer, but it gives you that flexibility. So great question. Other cloud options. So one is hybrid, because making a jump to a cloud server is a very big jump, and sometimes you just can't. So a hybrid solution, we're doing this quite a bit for our clients, is having an on-premise server and hosted servers. An example is if a company has large graphic files that need to be accessed by graphic artists or architects or engineers, designers, these files are, the client I'm thinking about, these files are 100 to 200 megs in size. They're a little too large to be manipulated online. They can, but the performance is not ideal. So what we've done is, and the designers are in the office. So what we've done is the on-premise servers have all these large files. So the designers are, in the same building on the local area network. They can access the files at gigabit speeds. But the company's CRM solution is hosted in the cloud server, since it's not as speed sensitive. And more importantly, their Salesforce, which is a pretty large Salesforce, works outside the office. So you get the best of both worlds, right? If you need fast access, local access, you can have a server in your building. Now, if your other parts of your workforce are remote, working from home, on the road, then they can access a cloud server, which gives you the best overall performance for remote users, right? Because it's not going to go down, and the speed is probably going to be the fastest in a data center versus your office. The second one, co-location. This is also an option. LinkHigh was in a co-location facility for about 15 years. So if you have extremely large databases or performance is absolutely critical, so like stock traders, right, where milliseconds make a difference, you would put it on your own server that you would own, but you would, instead of locating it in the server room in your office, you're going to put it in a data center for all the reasons I said before. Multiple internet sources, plus faster internet sources. So the fastest you can get in a commercial office building is usually 1 gig, and most clients can't get 1 gig of speed. Well, in the data center, it's really, the sky's the limit. It's really up to your budget. Our data center went up to 10 gigs. The monthly pricing is horrifying, but you can go up to 10 gigs. They have direct connections to Amazon, direct connections to Azure, direct connections to Google. Or if you're in a industry that's subject to compliance and your auditors don't want you to use a cloud server per se, then you would just co-locate to a data center. All right, another question. Yes, so the archive folders are backed up as well, so that's part of the backup. And misconceptions, okay. Case study. I use LinkHigh as a case study. So last year, for about 15 years, we're in a co-location facility. Every 5 years, I had to buy new hardware, $50,000 to $60,000 at a time. Upgrading hardware not only meant dollars, but it was downtime and labor. And then you have, since these are physical devices, hardware drive failures. So every 3 or 4 months we would have a failed drive. We would send someone to the data center to replace it. There's no downtime, but it's still, personnel time. And then backup costs were about $750 a month. So in 2019, we moved to a private cloud. The monthly cost, it's closer to $2,000 a month. It includes backup. the recovery times are minimized. So when you back up from a data center from your office, usually there's a process that each evening, or it could be more frequent, your backups are sent to a data center. Like we use Datto, that's our preferred backup solution. Well, that means like if you had a loss, you could lose as much as 1 day's worth of data, or even if we uploaded twice a day, you could still lose half a day of data. It's really just because the amount of data that needs to be transmitted takes time. But if you're in a cloud solution, we're doing it hourly right now. So the most I would lose is an hour backup, and we would be up in minutes and not hours. And then I think the biggest thing that takeaway is the cost reduction or cost benefit is realized over a period of time. So every once in a while I'll be at a client or a prospect that says, oh, well, I need to replace all my servers. I want to go to the cloud to save money. And they're usually a little disappointed because they're thinking immediate savings. You really have to think of total cost of ownership. That's the advantage of this dynamic of not owning any hardware and really just kind of moving it to the cloud is total cost of ownership over a period of time. Windows 10, desktop as a service. This is relatively new, and we have a great partner. I'll go into a little more. So what this means is essentially your operating system, which is going to be like a Windows 10, will be hosted in a data center. You have access to Windows apps anywhere. You have improved security. Desktop management is much easier, faster, and lower cost. And it has the same rich remote user experience similar to running on a local PC. And I have a short 1-minute video. Let's see if I can run it.
In this time of digital transformation, businesses are shifting to a modern desktop to empower their people. But not all employees sit in an office, use only one device, or always work from secure locations. What if you could deliver a modern desktop experience to every worker, everywhere? Introducing Windows Virtual Desktop, the full Windows experience virtualized in the cloud. Always up to date and available on any device. Optimized for Office 365, so you can deliver the most productive experience to your users. Delivered on Azure, so IT can quickly virtualize and deploy modern and legacy desktops. The best virtual desktop experience, delivered on Azure. Windows Virtual Desktop.
All right, so I picked that. That's a Microsoft video. But we actually use a partner called Nerdio. And so some of the benefits, BYOD, which means bring your own device. So we have some clients now, one's a real estate firm, 30 employees, but everyone works from home. And everyone's using their home device, their home PC, which is a nightmare to secure for compliance reasons. People don't want us to put antivirus on their personal machines because it may interfere with their home network, their home applications. So having a virtual desktop really would be a great way to say, yes, your corporate work or corporate device is completely separate from your home device. There's cost savings in terms of, again, the cost savings is really realized over total cost of ownership, not buying new hardware all the time, not having to buy the most powerful hardware for performance, because the performance is really built on, or you rely on the data center or your provider to give you great performance. Flexibility, you could spin up an image quickly You can deprovision an image quickly as well. Backup is built in. Again, here's our recommended vendor, Nerdio. They have, and we'll have another webinar in the future just on virtual desktops. This was the last minute add due to a question from a client. But they have private solutions and solutions built on Azure for excellent pricing. So how does the end user access desktop as a service? Would this be capable of eventually replacing the Office PCs, or is it a complement to Office for remote users? So surprisingly, law firms have been a big adopter of virtual desktops, and it's a total replacement. So, in the office, you could use terminals like a Wise terminal, Lenovo, thin clients. So the hardware is really not important anymore. The attorneys really use it for with laptops, but the laptops don't have to be top of line. They don't need to be an i7, 16 gigs, 1 terabyte storage. It's really just enough to run the virtual desktop. But the flexibility is they can, work in the office, they can work in the courtroom, wherever they are remotely. It's the same, experience, because you're really taking your desktop with you. So what you see on your desktop is always going to be the same as if you bring it up on your iPad or any other your cell phone. So in certain industries, it's a total replacement. I'm starting to see that more and more. The BYOD is really for our current clients. We seem to have a lot of clients that want to go BYOD, not to save the hardware, but to save the real estate cost. And also the workers really want the flexibility of working from home. So case studies, these are clients, real estate company, 30 employees located throughout New Jersey, New York City. They have office and remote users, but the trend is almost everyone is going to work from home. They're using their own devices. It's been a nightmare to manage. Moving them to a virtual desktop solution just makes security, compliance, management a lot easier. And they can use any device. And then we're not as worried about if they have antivirus on their home computer, because we know that the image will be properly protected. CPA firms, so this is great for CPA because they're seasonal in terms of employment. So during tax season, some of our CPA clients may double in size. Well, instead of having an office of 40 desktops that just kind of sit there for most of the year, these accountants that work only during the season, during tax season, can bring their own device, or they can use thin clients. And the other great thing is, the CPA firm that we have is they have extra PCs for seasonal, but right now, before virtual desktops is, let's say myself, I sit at a desktop. I have to sit on that because they don't have roaming profiles. I have to sit in the same desktop every day to have my, to see my files and shortcuts. Well, in a virtual environment, I just need a device. I can come in, pick any cubicle that's available, just log in, and boom, my desktop experience is always the same. How LinkHigh can help you move to the cloud. Usually moving to Office 365 or Google, if you haven't done it yet, is the first step. Be sure to include training in the migration. We've partnered up with some great firms to offer training either in person, remote training, or a popular option now is our clients want to get away from the office so they can focus. So they're using our training facilities. And that's certainly an option. So the training is not to go over like how to use Outlook, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, because most people are already using those applications. It's really how to use the collaboration and sharing, so you're really getting the maximum. I say email, but moving to an Office 365 really is not just email. It changes how you share, collaborate with your colleagues, because everything is saved centrally. It could be edited. It could be collaborated on centrally as well through OneDrive and SharePoint. And I focus on Office 365, but the Google G Suite works in the same principle. They just don't have a desktop version of their software. You know, Google started as a cloud-only company, and all their applications are cloud. And then after that, let's have a conversation on next steps and whether it makes sense in your organization. There's no blanket statement that everyone has to go to the cloud. It makes sense for more and more of our clients each year, but it may not make sense for your organization. I'm happy whether or not you're a client or you just joined us as a prospect. There's no obligation. I'm happy to have a conversation, and we'll just see if it's worth taking next steps and what we could do to help you. And questions? Any questions? That's my direct number, my email, so feel free to contact me. The second one, how does virtual desktop gain access to Office documents? Would this run as a service on a local server or only offered through Azure? So if you're moving to Office 365, really most of your documents should be in OneDrive or SharePoint. Now, we do have some clients with very sensitive documents. So let's say 90% of the documents are in SharePoint. And then their HR, they want on-premise. So we've done redirects and mapping so you can access those files on an on-premise server. Unless you really have some security concerns, I really think that everything should move to a central location like SharePoint. SharePoint, for better or worse, is their version of the cloud server. It's not as flexible as a traditional file server, but more and more people are using it, and there's new feature or functionality being built in. And there's overlays to make SharePoint function more like a traditional file server. So any other questions? So what we do, this is recorded. Nancy will post it up in, in social media or YouTube channel in the next few days. And then I see a lot of questions about virtual desktops. That's another conversation that if you're interested, contact me directly. We'll bring in our partner, Nerdio, and we'll have that conversation. That was, the desktop as a service or the virtual desktops was the last minute ad, because I noticed that it seems like a lot of people just start asking about it. Maybe because Azure just announced that they're having their version of Windows 10 hosted. So that was the last minute ad. I see a lot of promise. Those two case studies are just the tip of the iceberg. I think over the next few years, it's going to be a tremendous play. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. If there's no further questions, feel free to email me. We could certainly take any conversation offline. Thank you.